that's where we're going. We're not going to get all of that in one pass, though. We're going to start off with the first riff on the G, okay? So we got 2 strums of G, but we're working with these thirds that come off of the first and the third strings. Now these are the inverted thirds, remember? So that means that your root note is actually on the first string, okay? So just refresh yourself on that whole scale, on that whole pattern, starting on the G here. We got our major pattern. The minor pattern is both notes on the same fret. So it's A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp minor, and G major back up here, all the way up on the, coming off of the 15th fret with your root note. Okay? And of course you got F sharp minor down here and E minor right there too if you want to play around with those. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from our G chord, and we're just going to slide up. You can, wherever it's comfortable for you to kind of grab that third string, just slide into it from there. I basically just slide up from the 3rd fret because that's kind of where my fingers are to start off with. But you don't really want to emphasize that note, right? Because it doesn't sound good. It's just, it doesn't matter where you start from as long as you hit the ground running, right? You're not going to pause there and then move on. You're going to just slide right through and come up to the note that you want. So I use my 2nd and 3rd fingers for these minor. Basically for all of the minor pattern thirds, I'm going to use my 2nd and 3rd fingers. And for the major pattern, I'm going to use my 1st finger on the root note and the 2nd finger on the 3rd string. And that allows me to change very seamlessly because I'm not having to jump around to different strings, right? My 2nd finger is always locked onto the 3rd string. And all of these different patterns, have a look and find out which way it works for you to transition between the major and minor patterns most seamlessly, because you don't want to be having to, you know, do this sort of thing, right? Like if you're changing, if you're doing 1st and 2nd fingers like this, and then you switch to put your 1st finger on the 3rd string and your 2nd finger on the 1st string, that's going to really slow you down. And on top of that, every time you have to switch strings, you're introducing the potential for missing the string or whatever. If you've got your 2nd finger locked onto that 3rd string the whole time, it just keeps things easy, right? It really helps even if you want to play without looking. So there's a little tip for you on fingering. So we're going to slide up here to the 7th fret, 2nd and 3rd fingers. Now we've got this kind of progression going like this, right? We're going to go from the B minor to the A minor to the G major. And what I'm doing is I'm picking the 3rd string, and then I'm using the 2nd finger on my middle finger, that one, on my right hand, and I'm hybrid picking the 1st string. Now you could do this with your pick alone. If you prefer that, that's just fine. And if that's the case, you want to go down on the 3rd string and up. So you're kind of sandwiching around the notes that you want, right? Gives you a little bit of a brighter, little bit of a stronger attack. Personally, I like the hybrid approach because, again, just like keeping my 2nd finger locked onto that string, it allows me to keep these fingers locked onto the 1st and 3rd strings, and I don't have to move them around very much. But if you prefer flat picking it, that's just fine too. Okay, so that's our riff coming off of this G chord, right? So practice that. At first, just practice getting used to this riff. When you're familiar with that, and practice it also in the context of the larger scale, walking up the, all the different positions. It'd be good to just kind of practice through that whole thing. But practice that riff, and once you're fairly comfortable with the riff, start trying to slip it in here with the chords. We're strumming nice and slow here. So maybe what I'll do here is I'll just play through a couple bars of strumming and let you work on slipping in that riff. Okay, so I'm going to go 2 beats strumming. You slip in the riff, then I'll come back to 2 beats strumming, you slip in the riff. Okay, so that way you can focus just on that riff and getting it in at the right place. And then after that, we're going to come through and try to put it together. Okay, so if you need to, rewind that section a bit and practice that so it gives you something to kind of, some context within which to practice that riff. But now, let's try to put it together, okay?